everyone. This is John, your host, Bow Ties and Button Ups, coming at you. Welcome back to 2022. Well, welcome to 2022, and welcome to the new 2022 season. I know I've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but I'm back. We're going to be doing some great shows coming up, and this one is going to be no different than the rest of them. So, on this specific one, we're going to be talking about self-love. First, I want to let you guys know that this is pre-recorded. We are recording this on Valentine's Day, so it has a lot of significance to the self-love, caption. So I want you guys to be able to really understand, the importance of self-love and being able to, give that love to someone else. So I have a beautiful, beautiful, co-host here. Her name is Porsha. I'm gonna bring Porsha in so that way you guys can stop looking at me. What's up, Porsha? How you doing?
Hi, how you doing?
I am very good. I want everyone to know that Porsha, her title is at LMSW. That is a license. Please continue.
Licensed master social worker.
All right. So yes. Now, like everybody else, well, at least I don't know about you guys, but as far as when it came to social worker, I had this idea of growing up in high school and stuff like that, and I've heard about social workers. I know that they do. My idea of this, or my perception, was that they only visited the homes when there was a problem with a child. As far as a social worker, that was my perception of what that really looked like. But I definitely want to give you guys a better look at what social workers actually do. And just to begin, that's just the begin there. We're gonna go into the self-love part of it, but I want you guys to really get an idea of why it's so important for social workers and what they really do to assist us in the home, and then of course in our own individual lives. So can you give me a little bit of information about that, Portia, please?
Absolutely. I think many of us grew up with that very same idea that social workers came into the home when there was a problem, or DCS is to but there's the reality is that social workers play many roles, and many of like the organizations that you see, there's a social worker behind the scenes. There's social workers in school, which I didn't realize there were social workers in school growing up. There's social workers in hospitals. There's social workers in courthouses. There's social workers everywhere. And one of the things that I think many of us didn't understand, whenever we thought about therapy, we always thought about a psychologist or a psychiatrist. We never correlated social work with therapy. But indeed, social workers are behind those scenes as well. I work for a community counseling center. So we provide counseling services to the community. And what that means is, while we advocate when it comes to school, you have many kids, especially right now, because of the pandemic, experiencing challenges with anxiety and depression. The pandemic really, really put us all in a space, but especially young people. So there's social workers behind the scenes advocating advocating for the kids, and back and forth with the schools, basically talking to teachers and social workers, saying, they're coming in for session and we're noticing some anxiety, just advocating so that space is provided in schools for kids to be able to get through this time, but be given grace. So what I currently do as a social worker, I work as a therapist. And I see everyone from children to teenagers to adults. And I think that the other misconception, again, is that we're not qualified to be therapists. But and maybe I'm biased, but my personal opinion is that social workers make the best therapists, because we're trained to look at the whole picture. We're trained to look at your background, your family history, your mental history, your social history, your health history. And we take all of that and we piece it together to say, okay, what it sounds like or what it seems like, and then we go from there. Whereas psychologists or psychiatrists may only be looking at the mind. They're only looking at one aspect. And I myself, as a social worker, I like to look at mind, body, and spirit. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about alignment and being whole, that's what it includes. So
right. And that's a powerful notion, especially because just recently I made a post about that. And I'm kind of like correlating it to what you said, and it makes total sense when we talk about therapists and psychologists. When we're talking about just the mind, we can help someone heal the mind, but there's other parts of the body that need that help too. You know what I'm saying? That
Mhm.
therapy. So and I feel like what you're saying is it is all encompassing, and that's where that is where I think we need to we be a little bit more conscious, or just be more aware that that help looks like maybe a social worker, where you're able, what I'm saying, if you feel like you're not getting a specific therapy, whether it's physical, mental, you inside, spiritually, whatever that looks like, there is help, and it sounds like a social worker can definitely play a part in that healing. So see, that's what I'm talking about, man. I didn't know none of this. I've honestly, man, I swear, I just thought y'all just came in and was like, nah, talking to the parents
And
like,
take
yo,
people's
stop
care.
beating your child for real. You can't be
No,
doing that. You
no.
can't be around here touching these kids like this. You know what I'm saying? You may be the parents, but
Yeah.
don't be beating on these kids. You're gonna go to jail. That was just my idea. That's what I thought. So let
Yeah.
me ask you this then.
Yes.
What brought you to social work? What brought you to social work?
Great question. So I try to be the conflict, I think, sometimes with being a social worker is that while I think it's helpful for people for you to disclose, you can't disclose too much. But I do like to be open because everyone wants to feel like they're sitting across from a human, right? You don't want to think you're sitting across from someone who's like very on edge, like, yes, So the first thing that brought me to social work is that I'm a survivor of much. I'm a survivor as much of much, basically, the crack epidemic of the 80s, so many things. And what that made me want to do is be for someone else what I needed. That
Hmm.
was my goal as a social worker, to be for someone else what I needed in those moments where things were very, very confusing and very just I needed clarity that just didn't come. And for me, that clarity came through living and through lessons. So what I wanted to do was be able to help provide someone clarity without them having to go through that same struggle.
Hmm. Wow. And I guess I can identify with that. I mean, my challenges growing up were a little bit different than most. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have it bad. You know what I'm saying? But I was introduced to, a lot of things that maybe most kids shouldn't. And that's just my life where I was used to live, where I grew up really. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The environment that I grew up in wasn't the most conducive to something you want a child to be in. So I know my mom, she did the best she could in her circumstances. So I can't really say that she did a great job. I was just blessed to be able to have people around me that protected me. So that was definitely, again, just going off of what you're saying as far as that. I mean, we lived in Amityville, right? At least I did. I know I think you lived in Amityville or Copic or area.
I lived in Amityville.
Mhm.
Okay. I lived in Amityville, but I was definitely new to the Ville. I
Uh-huh.
think I came after the 80s. So
Oh,
yeah, Albany Ave and all of that, I only heard
yeah.
about it,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so what's funny about that story is Albany Avenue. I grew up around there because my mom worked full time, so I lived more so toward the north side, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But it was like not a good street to live on. But I grew up around there because my mom worked full time, so my aunts pretty much had me all the time. My aunts all
Mhm.
lived near the block, so they and I was it was we were always told not to go up there, but I had uncles and stuff that was up there, so it was like nobody would mess with them. So that's just how it
Mhm.
was. They kind of ran the block. So, but again, I was fortunate enough to be protected in that. But still, in all, I had my fair share of things that I've seen, and I went through. You know what I'm saying? As far as just growing up and hard, it was rough.
Mhm.
But I didn't really realize the impact of those things until you actually get older, and you have to kind of like step outside of yourself in a way. And
Mhm.
but it was tough. It was tough, girl. It was tough. I mean, but again, my situation was a little bit different than others that were living that side of it, because again, I was kind of like I was in a bubble. I was kept in a bubble. Like
Right.
saying, John, you can't, don't go over here, don't do this, don't be
Mhm.
around this person, don't be around that person. But I knew them. So
Right, right. There was the story behind that, but those aunties
yeah,
didn't play either. They better not catch you up on that corner.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes. So tell me, how has your journey becoming an MSW changed you? Like in what ways?
Um, One of the biggest ways I think it's changed me. I think many of us, the struggles we go through, we spend so much time asking why. Like,
Mhm.
why? Like, what was this for? And when I sit across from my clients, and I think, first of all, for me, um, sitting across from clients isn't just about education. Education is a piece of it, right? Like grad school, all that stuff, it's a piece of it. But it's experience that it's human experience that makes you, I think, more valuable and accessible. So when I sit across from clients, and they tell me things like, and you can see in their body language and their shoulders drooping, and like the lack of eye contact when they say things like, "We're currently displaced from our home," and the
Mm,
shame. And as a kid, I had experience being in shelters. Like I said, I'm a survivor of much. So being able to sit across from my client and look at them in the face and say, listen, it's a human experience. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And many of us, because like I said earlier, you can't really disclose too much as a social worker. You have to really kind of be very um, strategic in terms of how you disclose things. But just being able to say, many of us who are in this building, we're here because we've been in the space you're in. So the way that it's changed me is it's basically let me know that my struggle, it was for something. It was for something. And I understand what it's for now. And like I said, education is cool, but what is it without experience? So
mm.
the experience was, I think I was a social worker before I was a social worker. And having my master's in it just basically said, okay, you're certified, but you were already called to do this. So,
I'm speechless. That was that was beautiful. And it is it is because I I believe in, I mean, there's certain people that I'm around, or just see, I could see their passion in what they do. And I think I you and I knew you by circumstance, really. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't really formally introduced. I would just see you about, and we kind of, you knew the same people. So I would see you in that way. But you were very quiet. You were like me. So I mean, I would never know, looking outside, from the outside looking in, of the things that you were introduced in life at all.
yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
there's a story behind that. My dad didn't play. I wasn't allowed to be outside. So
we, yeah, we do. I see, and it's crazy because we do a lot of prejudging. At least I'm getting now. I'm finally getting to the point where I'm saying to myself, like, especially nowadays with the internet and the media, and looking at the things that, like yesterday with the Super Bowl, and I was like, all these
Mhm.
memes, and they're talking about these celebrities and talking about other people and stuff, and I'm like, yo, I came to a point where, looking back at the stuff I was looking at, and it would have been funny to me back in the day, but now it
Mhm.
isn't, because I'm like, yo, you don't know the circumstances as to what they're going through. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel
Mhm.
like that judgment is misplaced, or it's maybe they're doing it just because they just want to feel better about themselves. And I'm like, or just don't really care. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what the
Yeah.
circumstances is, but when I'm looking inward, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, I'm much more careful about how I judge people and that stuff, and in that regard. So, but again, just looking at you, I wouldn't even have known. And you wear it well, and a lot of
Thank
people
you.
do that. And now I'm gonna go off. I'm actually gonna bridge this topic, because now, looking at what you say, and I look at my wife and the things that she
Mhm.
went, no one could ever guess how hard she had.
Mm.
Like, she had a very rough life, and I'm not gonna go into many details. I told her to write a book, but I mean,
Mhm.
seriously, I was like, the things that you were introduced to at such a young age would have crushed someone. You know what I'm saying? Or just affected
Mm.
them in a way where their relationships, just, she wouldn't have been able to have a normal relationship with people. You know what I'm saying? But she was able to come out of those circumstances and just become just this beautiful soul. And the same thing I could say for you.
Thank you.
So I mean, it's just so important that a person like yourself is going to be that tool and that resource and be relatable to other people that may have gone through the same things as you in that way, because then they're going to feel more comfortable in opening up and allowing that
Mm-hmm.
energy to come in. That way they can change. So I mean, I always tell, like, right now I'm a financial counselor for college, and I listen to these kids' stories, and even not just kids, it's older people going to school online, but
Mm-hmm.
I listen to them, and I'm like, the majority of the time, like you said, it's funny how the experiences that you experience when you're young, how it introduces you to the next path. And it seems like all of them say the same thing, like when they're in psychology or they're in child development, whatever that is, substance abuse. And they're like, I myself was introduced, like that was me. I was doing drugs, or I was beaten as a child, or whatever that looks like. And I'm like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I wish more people took that energy, the same thing that they were given, and turn it into something a little bit more productive. And you're like, this is huge. Like, people need this, and especially now with this pandemic. Like, people
Yeah.
need to heal. And touching those children or to adults, whatever it looks like, we're all affected. So I commend you for that. Like, seriously,
Thank
it's a
you.
beautiful thing. So as a therapist, right? What is your primary focus as a social worker and a therapist?
My primary focus is I'm big on healing.
Mhm.
I'm big on the importance of healing. Because I think we spend so much time being in survival mode that we don't think healing is possible. And my focus when it comes to healing is self love. Um,
Mhm.
and the reason that's so important is because life is so unpredictable. So many different things get thrown at us. And I believe in focusing on what we can control. And what I can control is how I feel about me. That is the one constant thing, that is the one dependable thing. So I know if I basically facilitate my healing process based upon my love of myself, then something I have something concrete to lean on.
Mhm.
So my whole goal with my clients is first of all to have the understanding, or to basically, I always say, like, the first step to change is knowing that there needs to be a change, right? Like, understanding, like, okay, something has to change. And the next step is focusing on what you can control in that. And what you can control is yourself.
Ooh, yeah, we can. Um, okay, but here's the thing that I have a question about, because this is not even a question on our list. So when we're talking about that, the one thing, and I've had this conversation. Well, I hear this a lot, that the one thing that you have control of is what I'm saying, with yourself, your emotions.
Mhm.
But then I have to look at, the when things happen, when we're overly stimulated, whether that's and when we're angry, and then sometimes we really can't control that. So what are some, like, tools that you can use to sit there and have some type of control over that? Because I mean, emotions are, we're human beings. So, and
Right.
sometimes it's just overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? We could be so full of a specific emotion at that one time, and then we
Mhm.
have no control over that point. You know what I'm saying? If there's loss, there's sadness, or if it's just, a frustration that you can't complete something, or right now we're going through a lot where people can't get jobs, you know what I'm saying, and whatever that
Right.
looks like. And that sense of not being able to be enough, you know what I'm saying. And it turns inward. And I'm speaking from experience here, you know what I'm saying. And I went through a rough patch, like, last year was a very, very rough time for me. I had a very rough year, and it was
Mhm.
because I put a lot of pressure on myself to be a provider, you know what I'm saying. And
Mhm.
it came to a point where I felt as though I wasn't, so I was questioning a lot. And it was, I did take on some tools, to really try to limit as much I was using, as far as, like, just being very negative. to
Mhm.
myself. Saying and self love. I used to always say, I have to do some things to just love on myself, to let me know, just give myself a little bit more grace. You know what I'm saying, or whatever that was. But you know, anxiety and depression, they're triggers. They're triggers to actually
Mhm.
get to that point, and we don't always know what that looks like, though. So we can say that we have control over that, which we can. But again, when we're overwhelmed with so much, what does that look like, and how can you actually do it? Like, at
Mhm.
least to start.
Well, the one thing that I always try to make clear is I'm human first, right? So I would never sit and tell someone, "Oh, only focus on what you can control," because it's easier said than done. Let's be real. So the reason why I say it is because that has been a tool for me personally. I'm not going to like tell someone to do something that I haven't tried. And when I say focus on what you can control, sometimes when you're angry, and listen, when I say I'm human, when she's mad, she's big mad. Um, I'm 5'2", you know how that goes. So,
Yes,
so definitely in the moment when you're mad and you're angry, it's like, this is bigger than me. Like I'm about to, it's about to be one of those Hulk moments where I have to look around like, damn, I did that, you know? But the idea is myself when I'm angry, I try to think about if I respond this way, what happens next? What
mm,
happens next? Because I have to be held accountable for what happens next. I can't have a Hulk moment and smash everything up and then be like, damn, So the idea is what happens next. And when it comes to, being depressed, like that's something I definitely think we can all identify with. 2020 was a doozy. Like
mhm.
that came out of nowhere. We were like, oh, 2019, 2020 is my year. Or 2020 was like, nah, chill. So what my tool for focusing on what I can control in terms of being anxious and being depressed is gratitude. When I focus on what I'm grateful for, it kind of helps me to not focus as much on what's not going right. Like for example, I may not have all the money I want, but I have a home. I have, my health. And even though sometimes that can sound, I'm sorry, I have a cat and he's doing cat things. Um, but what that looks like is when I'm grateful for the things that I do have, the things that I don't have, they start to kind of like go out of focus. And it's easier for me to focus on the important things and bringing that back to self-love. When I focus on me and how I feel about me, then it's easier to tune out how other people feel about me or what other people say about me or just facilitate. I like to call, and the reason why I say focus on things that you can control is because, again, with self love, to me, self love is creating a home within yourself. And when you think of home, it's like you have a long day at work, you come home and you kick off your shoes and you like, ah. And it's the same thing with self-love. It's like I'm kicking off my shoes and I'm relaxed and I feel okay and I feel warm and I feel like I'm good. So self-love and focusing on what I can control, it creates a home for myself. I'm my safe space. People always talk about, oh, I need a safe space or this is your safe space. I'm my safe space.
What did I tell you before when I do this?
Aha, aha.
When I do this. Listen, when you say you're your safe space, I'm going to read everybody the dictionary um, definition to self love. The self love is regard for one's own well being and happiness. It's and in a parentheses, it says chiefly considered as a desirable rather than narcissistic characteristic.
Mhm,
So, and that's this self love. And on a deeper level, we can. That's just a general, idea of what it is. Regards for one own's well being and happiness, right?
mhm,
And on a deeper level, you're saying that pretty much you're the happiness. Like this is as far as happiness goes. this is it here. And in order for me to actually be that way, you know what I'm saying, or be happy, I always tell people to do this. And this is during my conversations I always have with people that are
Mm,
feeling, down or whatever it was. And this is something that I used to. When I was going through some really deep things and feeling depressed, and it was mild anxiety or mild depression, anxiety, whatever it was, it was, I had to say to myself, I had to look at the things that made me happy in those
mm,
moments, because it's easy for you to be angry, it's easy for you to be sad, it's like the easiest thing ever to be there, right? Because it's like, it's one of those things where it's just automatic. I could be very angry at you because you did something very small. We could take that and magnify it and be uber angry at whatever it is. It's super easy, but it's really hard for some reason to be happy about things. But when you start to be happy about who you are, and
mm,
you start to be happy about your successes, or starting to happy to be about how you feel, that changes things in an entirely different way. So, I always tell people when they tell me about, I was very mad when they did blah 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 or whatever, I'm just angry, I'm just very sad, I don't know how to control this or whatever. And I have to tell them, I'm like, look, when was the last time you were happy? What did that look like?
mm.
Revisit how that felt. And once you revisit how that felt, yeah, yeah.
Right, right.
When you revisit how that felt, that kind of automatically takes you into that space because it's familiar to you. You remember it.
Mm,
You don't forget when you're happy. You don't forget in those times when
mm,
you're genuinely happy. You can revisit those moments and you're like, you ever notice when you do that how automatically you smile? Like you kind of
mhm.
like it takes you to a different place. So it redirects your energy,
Absolutely.
that negative energy somewhere else. And
Yeah.
that's a tool that I use. But yeah, I'm loving this conversation. I could go on and on. But what you said about being home is something that we don't do enough of self-love. And I think that's really where the definition should be. You know what I'm saying? The
Mm,
definition of should be who you are, yourself. Self-love is I mean, because I mean the itself is, if we break it down, it's what it is, but we just need to simplify it. Self-love
mm.
is you.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Um, and I think it's discovering self-love is returning home to yourself. That's returning home. Because I think many of us growing up were raised by parents who were recycling their trauma. You know, first of all, let's be real, as Black people, our trauma goes deep. It goes deep. So our
Yeah.
parents were raised by their parents who their life was filled with obligation. And that's why for Black people, joy is a radical act because when did we have time for joy? It was, I got to pay these bills. I got to take care of these kids. Sleep. I got to fix a car. I got to pay the light bill. I gotta. So the idea for us as kids was seeing all these I gottas and not really understanding what life could look like. And when I say self love is returning home to ourselves, I think, first of all, when we're raised by parents who are recycling trauma or there's intergenerational trauma, what that looks like is we oftentimes were unable to express our feelings. We often weren't able to be vocal about what was, like, I don't understand this, or I'm upset because, or I'm angry because, or I'm sad because. And what we learn to do is much like what our parents did and our grandparents did. We suppress our emotions. And when we suppress our emotions, it's telling us, I'm not worthy enough, not having an idea of our worth because we are suppressing emotions. And the thing that I think we forget is as we're conditioned,
Mm.
as children were conditioned. It's not like we're going to go through these things as kids and experience these things as kids and then turn out a whole different way as an adult. What we
Yeah.
experience and go through as children, that's why when you run into adults who have certain challenges, they've been conditioned due to their childhood. So that's why self love is huge to me because it's returning home. It's beginning to understand I am worthy. I am allowed to vocalize my feelings. I am allowed to say this made me upset because. I am allowed to say I don't think this situation is reflective of how I view myself or my worth. And I think that for as adults, that is something very new to us. And that to
Mm,
me is another basis of self-worth. Being able to examine situations and my feelings and my emotions based upon how I feel about me.
oof, that's heavy. That's heavy in so many different ways. And I guess it's because, and I learned from my life coach, who is my sister. But, you know, it's so funny when we talk about our emotions, and certain ones we reject because of the way, it's coming across. Like if we're angry, what I'm saying, people
Mhm.
don't we don't we it's just we feel like we can't. When we're angry, we need to be all this. It has to be dramatic. What I'm saying? It has to be dramatic when you're angry. Everything has to be dramatic. All this hollering and yelling. And
Mhm.
it's like we don't have to project that. I could be very upset and still be very articulate when I'm speaking to you about what I didn't like or what I didn't appreciate. You know what I'm saying? But it's the way we handle our emotions sometimes. It's really it's the levels they're I don't know, they're heightened. It's either
Mhm.
happy, very happy, or angry, very angry. I know people like that, and I'm like, yo, there has to be a middle ground. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It really doesn't have to be so dramatic. You know what I'm saying? Like you can communicate your disdain for whatever it is. Like it's perfectly fine. I don't I don't have to agree with you, but
Mhm.
I can just, you know what I'm saying? I can still be able to communicate with you in a way where it's like, look, I mean, there still has to be some respect here. You can be very angry at what I did. If I didn't harm you physically or whatever it is, I mean, we could talk about it, have a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
for some reason though, we feel like we just need to it just needs to be dramatic. We need to be heard for some reason. When we're angry or upset or whatever that is. And it's
Mhm.
perfectly fine, 'cause I know some people that's their space that they need to get
Yeah.
to that space to get it all out. But handling emotions is really tough. But when you get older, I'm learning a lot about that part of
Right.
it. And just the way I see myself in that moment. You know what I'm saying? Like there's times I look back and I'm like, yeah, that I could have done that a totally different way. You know what I'm saying? Without
Yeah.
having to that point where I'm so angry, I could have definitely expressed myself differently. But now I no longer allow people to do that. And people
Mhm.
try me. They
That's
try me.
huge though. They will, right? They will to see if the old you still lives there. Like, nah, she not here no more.
Oh,
Um, but that's, I think that's so huge to be able to say that and be like, I have to reflect and say, I could have done that differently. And to be honest, I wrote a song about it. When I here it go, right? So the idea is like going back to our conditioning. We're triggered. We're triggered. Something that you said or did to me reminds me of something from my past or my history, and it triggers me. So my reaction is not just based upon what you said or did, it's based upon it's a reminder of someone or something that made me feel similarly. So when I react, I'm not just reacting to what you said or what you did. I'm reacting based upon the unhealed version of myself. The unhealed version of Porsha is the pull-up queen, right? She she don't live here anymore. But the unhealed version will pull up. The healed version will say, this is making me really angry and I really want to swing. Why am I feeling this way? What is this bringing up for me? What is this connecting to in my past? And before I check this person, do I need to check myself?
hmm.
So it's a process, right? It's a process where we like, okay, I do believe that I'm worthy of expressing my emotions because I'm not
Right.
carrying this baggage around. It's too heavy. You take it. It's yours, right? But the idea is there's a process. What does it connect to my past that makes me react this way? What in myself is unhealed that's reacting to this? And how can I respond that reflects the healed or the best version of myself? Because that's our goal, to be the best version of ourselves. And self love
Right.
demands that I'm the best version of myself. Because let's be real, and this was a hard part. And I will admit this myself, the hard part of discovering self love, and I told you I cuss a little bit, the hard part was getting sick of my own shit. Okay. That's the first step. I'm tired of my own stuff. I'm sick of it, you know? So what do I do? And the next hard part of self love is discipline. When you get sick of your own stuff, discipline kicks in and it's like, listen, you got to do better. You
Yeah.
know, do you want better? You got to do better. And if you love you, that's like when you love like a family member and you like, I love you, but that wasn't cool. That
Mm.
wasn't cool. And because I love you, I'm going to tell you about it. Because I love myself, I'm going to check myself. It's necessary because that's how I reach being the best version of myself.
Yes. You better talk to him, Porsha.
It don't hear me though.
Listen, listen, y'all. Y'all can throw them, even though this is pre-recorded, y'all can throw them comments up in there. So that way we can talk about this because it's no problem for us to revisit this because I have some news for you with Porsha, but that's a little bit later. So this kind of like segues perfectly into the next portion of this. And the next thing we're gonna talk about is self-care. So
Mm,
you were speaking about certain actions that to take for you to become the best version of yourself, right? I'm going to give you the dictionary meaning to self-care. So, the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. And that ties into it perfectly. So, the first thing is self-love. So, how do we self-love? We have to learn to self-care, right?
mm,
So, self-caring are those actionable items that we need to do to get to self-love. So
mm,
I'm kind of like answering the other question that was after this now, because now we're talking about, because my other question, if y'all really want to know, if y'all want to be nosy, the next question was, is self-love and self-care one and the same? And now I know because now I'm kind of answering my own thing, because when I sent you the question, I was like, they kind of probably will lead right into each other, and it did.
mhm,
So self-care, self-care is something that we don't do enough on a deeper level. We could talk about self-care, and I know y'all have your own definitions of what that looks like for you personally, and it's perfectly fine too. But I feel like self-care is a whole body experience for me.
mm,
I don't believe in it being one dimensional. When we talk about self-care, I believe that in order for us to move on and be our better versions of ourselves, it's a full body experience. So, and that's why and I say that because of, again, my own experiences. When I was going through what I was going through, I noticed when I was focusing on one thing, which was my mental ability to be able to be a little bit more outside of myself as far as those negative thoughts, and just being in this place of just this dark place of not being, feeling like I wasn't enough. And
mm,
I noticed what would happen was is I would focus so hard on that. Like I was doing some crazy things, man, but I was focused so hard on that, my health started diminishing. So I was neglecting my health. I was neglecting my spirit. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
And things that made me happy, my passions. I was neglecting them because I was so focused on one thing. And I think when it like I said, I think I truly believe that self-care, you have to do it all. It has to be something together. You have to be able to integrate all these different types of things in this one experience in order for you to feel whole. Because if we want to feel whole, we have to focus on the entire thing, right?
mhm.
So, and I know there's certain things that we need to, kind of like puzzle together, which is fine. But I don't know what that looks like for people, but that's where my thinking is, and that helped me get to a place of peace. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm just like, I know where I lacked. I know where I lacked. I've actually identified that now. I know what that looks like, and I
Mm.
won't go back there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm taking necessary steps to do whatever the fuck I want. Y'all, I
Yes,
just cursed. That's what it is. So,
you know I'm a curse.
so self care. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Yes, but I love the idea, like you're like it's a whole body experience. And I think the idea is I'm working on things myself too. You know, we the society that we live in demands that we overwork ourselves, right? We live in a society that says you work 5 days, you only get 2 days off. that in itself is like, that's some unrealistic expectations when you try to fit in self-care. But and I think self-care can be an overwhelming idea when we think of it. Like, "No, I don't have time for that." You know? Like when you're like, I gotta get up in the morning and be at work at this time. I gotta come home, cook dinner, feed these kids. My little one is running around acting like he lost his mind. You know, it's like, when do I have time for that? But the idea is we make time to care for everybody else.
Right.
And that care that we show everyone else is an expression of our love. You
Right.
caring for your wife is an expression of your love. You express your love for her through caring for her. And it can be little things. Look, I know she likes candles, so I'm going to get this candle. And I think sometimes when self care seems overwhelming, we have to. I tell my clients when they're like, I don't know how to take care of myself. And I say, well, how do you take care of your best friend? I bet you don't play about her. Because we quick to say, I'll play about best friend, right? I need you to apply that to yourself. Don't play about
Wow.
you. So,
Wow.
how do you express love to yourself? And that doesn't always look like manicures and bubble baths and tea. That looks like I need to come home and sit quietly and, put on my essential oils and just sit and be still within myself. I need to recollect my thoughts. Or
Mhm.
it means being able to ask yourself, like, for example, you come home, your wife is like, I had a hard day. Right away, your wheels get clicking.
Mhm.
Depending on what type of day she has or has had, I know what to do for her. I know what to do. I know her. So the same can be applied to ourselves. Depending on what type of day I've had, I have to ask myself, what do I need? Does my mind need to recharge? Does my body need to recharge? Does my spirit need to be recharged?
Mm.
So when I look at these three things and I ask myself, what do I need? And I'm a big, advocate of meditation. I know meditation can be it can be something that feels like it's not accessible. Like I can't sit still and be quiet. That's the main thing. Like I can't sit still and be quiet. My mind won't stop. Same. Okay. Same. But I believe that there are different levels to meditation. For
Mhm.
example, I need my singing bowls.
Mm.
Um, so the idea is connecting with something that allows you to express your love for yourself through self
Mhm.
care. And what the first step is, the same that you would for your loved ones. What do you need? What's wrong? Ask yourself, what do you need? What's wrong? And then check that off and go from there.
I love that. I love that because it's such a hard question, right? When we think about it, like if we really think about it, it's like what do I need right now, right? Because I think what happens in those moments, we could do that, but then if that action demands is demanding someone else to give you what you need, I think that's where
Mhm.
that whole conflict comes into because you're like, well, I don't know if they're gonna do this for me now. If they're gonna give me what I need in this moment, right? How do I communicate that to them in a way where it's not offensive and or just not feeling like I don't being you babying me or whatever that looks like. We
Yeah.
do a lot of damage in those moments, but I feel like we need to do that more. Get used to it, right?
Mhm.
Make it more common than uncommon to be able to tell somebody what you need or tell yourself what you need. Be able to be
Mhm.
comfortable in knowing that and be okay with it. Don't don't sit up there and damage yourself just based off of what you think may happen because what you think may happen
Mhm.
may not be reality. It could be the complete opposite. So you're
Right.
kind of denying yourself. You're healing.
Mhm.
You're completely denying
Yes.
yourself. That's a lot to ask of yourself. Like to be able to say, "What do I need?" and it be okay with that.
Mhm.
I've gone accustomed to actually telling myself, I thanking my organs, my heart for working how as hard as it does, and
Mhm.
and that's just through meditation, being able to talk, to be able to be appreciate your body in that way, appreciate the functions that it does for you on a daily basis.
Mhm.
When some people it doesn't happen that way, or it's just like be grateful for that because at the core of it all, we can say what we want and all these type of things, but the core of it all, what we have means a whole lot more than what we want. And
Mm.
we've attained. It's like I've grown accustomed just to being able just to say that, say thanking myself for certain things. My dang allergies act up. I'm like, well, I have the function to smell. I have the function to be able to to still be able to do the things that I'm doing. Although it may be limited at times, I still have that ability. And thank you for working so
Mhm.
hard all these years for however long I'm alive. I'm 40 something, guys, whatever. 40 something, but I look good, all right? I look good.
I look
But yes,
good.
look, I'm I'm at that point of being able to start being a little bit more accepting of myself because I've
Mm.
done a lot of that. A lot of my years I was damaging to myself. Just to say
Mm.
I wasn't
You weren't
appreciating.
kind to yourself.
I
Yes.
wasn't. I was really bad. I was really bad. I always just talk bad about myself. Short, or whatever that looked like. I'm not as attractive as these other guys out here, and I just I was doing a lot of damage to myself. But
Mm.
when you start to find that self love, and then you're working in that self care to get to that point, I feel like I'm becoming unstoppable. And I'm
Mm.
at that point where I'm more accepting of myself. I still have my moments where I'm just like, man, your nose is a little weird or whatever, but you all right.
Yeah.
Say
Yeah.
that point.
Definitely.
I, I I I love this conversation because I feel as though we don't do it enough
Mm.
for ourselves. We don't do it enough. And it shows. It shows in the way we interact. We can hide it all we want. You know what I'm saying? All the makeup in the world or all the working out in the world that you do. Oh, people working out and like, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
There's an internal struggle within ourselves because we're trying to obtain that beauty. We're trying to mask a lot of the emotional distress that's inside by making it everything look well on the outside. It's like a facade.
Mm. Yes. Yes. Um, you know what you reminded me of? I had posted something a while back that really um was it was like wow, it was like one of those aha moments, and it was a picture of this man, and on the outside he looked so confident, he looked so well put together, and then it showed what goes on inside his head, and inside his head was a little boy crouched in the corner with the teddy bear.
Mm.
And those insecurities that we mask and that we feel, and when we're unkind to ourselves, I'm a big proponent of connecting what we feel now, our habits, our thoughts, with what we experienced in our past. And for many of us, and I find this, in my work now, for many of us it connects to our childhood, because our parents, let's be real, they weren't perfect. They were doing the best they could. And sometimes the best they could means what their parents did. But be mindful again of how trauma shows up and what they instilled in us, and not purposefully, right? Were some of these insecurities and some of these doubts. And like I said earlier, when we're adults, as children, it doesn't just go away. It basically becomes who we're going to be as adults. And like, I relate to what you said so much. I picked myself apart for years. For years. Like you said, my nose, having like soup coolers, that's a little rough when you don't when you're waiting to grow into them, okay? So just picked myself apart. Like, girl, you got a 5 head, like all these things. But then it's like, why? Why? Because there's only one me,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's going to be me better than me. So I better get used to it and get better at it, because this is what it is. The nose, the soup coolers, they here to stay, the 5 head. So some days it's hard to embrace, especially, look, speaking of self love, especially in BBL culture, let's keep it real, okay? We got some, and I don't judge, do what makes you happy, but we got some images that make us question ourselves even more, especially with workout culture. For the pandemic, the people who hit the gym, y'all showing off, but whatever. Some of us sat around and gained 30 pounds, but I ain't gonna go there. Um, but it really makes you question yourself, like, why don't I look like her? Why don't I look like him? And then we kind of like, we shrink. And then it's like,
Right.
well, I don't know what she has going on. I don't know what he has going on. I don't know what their struggles are. And I only get one life to rock all of this. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
rock it. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. It is what it is. And it is difficult sometimes. It is. I'll be looking around and I'm like, she got the nerve not to have a waist. You got a
Yeah.
nerve.
It's funny. I'm gonna be a little bit transparent here. So, man, I forgot homeboy's name. What's that dude name now that everybody loved? The dude that played in Black Panther. What's his name? Michael.
You ain't gonna get me in trouble.
What's his name?
Michael B. Jordan. Not that I knew
Michael
or
B. Jordan.
anything. It was,
Michael B.
I
Jordan.
just
So, you know, so, so it's funny, but we watched this movie at his most recent one. Actually, not the one with the girl. It was the other one where he just went like crazy, like killing everybody. But anyway, he took off his shirt, and of course, he's a nice built he's well built man, whatever, right?
right.
So I was like, it's funny because this happens every single time I'm watching TV, and I see a guy that's in shape. I actually in my room while we're watching it, I'll go and start doing push-ups or sit-ups and exercising while the movie is on.
Mm-hmm.
It's the weirdest thing, but at one point in my life, I was like that. And I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, I'm older now and I feel like things are not as tight as they should be. But
Yeah.
subconscious, I'm like, I need to work out because I don't know if my wife is looking at him like, he has a nice body. I want her to say that same thing to me. Like, I got a nice body too. So it's those type of things that, I'm trying really hard to escape, but it's so funny. But it's like that self-care again, like saying affirmations,
Mm.
give myself affirmations, saying,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? Like I am enough. I know I'm confident in myself enough to say that, I am a worthy man. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to have six pack and pecs out to wherever, you know what I'm saying? And but still in all, again, coming out of that place of just being just not feeling like I'm enough or just feeling like I'm just, not like the rest of the guys. Because when I was growing
Mm-hmm.
up, they wanted tall, dark, and handsome, right? They want them thuggish. I was never a thug. Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? And nor was I ever dark, nor was I ever tall. So it was like looking at that, you know what I'm saying? And just being able to try to fit some type of ideal man. I was like,
Mm.
well, I can't. I'm challenged in height, so let me just work out there. You know what I'm saying? Man? I need to
Right.
work out there. I need to be. I need her to look at me like that since I'm not tall enough. It's just I constantly do that. It's just weird. But again, when I'm looking at it, having this conversation, I'm like, damn, I do that almost every time. It's like I'll just jump on, like, start working out. It's so fucking weird, but yeah.
I think we all do that, but I think we all do that, right? Where we sit in and we like peek over to see if our partner is like looking, at this person. And what I've tried to learn, what I try to embrace is that two things can exist at the same time. Um, my partner can find Nia Long or Halle Berry or whomever attractive, but also still love and find me attractive too. So because you are looking at Nia Long in the movie doesn't take away from the idea that you're also attracted to me. And see, that's again self-love and coming back home to yourself. And I
Mm,
love how you brought up affirmations because again, the analogy of coming home means I'm safe,
mm,
I can relax, and I feel at ease. I feel, at peace. So coming home to myself in moments of insecurity means reaffirming myself. And it happens because, like I said, first of all, it's hard out here for a pimp. BBL culture, I'm walking around like, first of all, I'm guilty of the COVID. People like COVID 15. Try COVID 30, okay? Like, I got. It's
good
a
guy.
conspiracy. But the idea is reminding myself to come back home to myself and seeing someone who's like, damn, you know what I mean? But then being like, I'm okay. I'm enough. And yeah, I might have a little belly, but I'm still cute. You know what I mean? I'm like listen, I'm in that 40 range too. So basically being kind to myself and remembering those great things about myself. And first of all, I think when we grow up and we are not like I grew up the same way. Like looking at like I wasn't first of all, I was very sheltered. I grew up with my dad. When I was 11, I moved with my dad. And dads and daughters, you already know how that is. I was very sheltered. And he was like upstairs. He thought he was slick watching BET Uncut or whatever it was. He saw little Kim and he was like, nah, nah, you know. So I was very sheltered. So I wasn't able to identify with my peers, which meant that I compared myself a lot. Like, why don't I look like her? Why don't I act like her? Why don't I talk like her? I was very quiet and I was a bookworm. I did a lot of reading. I did a lot of, like just kind of staying to myself. But what that made me feel was very alienated from my peers. So insecurity set in, especially in that awkward stage, that awkward phase that we go through. And it grew from there where I was constantly comparing myself until I got to an age and a space where I'm like, when you say there's only like nobody can be you but you, nobody can be you but you. So get comfortable in yourself. Remember to come home to yourself. Remember to reaffirm yourself, even in those moments of feeling insecure. Find something that you love about yourself and remind yourself of it. And I'm constantly, when they say, like, remember, like, don't trust a big butt and a smile. There's a lot of big butts and smiles running around here. And I'm just like feeling real, I have my days. And then I have to remember, like, what is she saying to help? You was kind, you was smart, So I have to remind myself that sometimes, first of all, I'm a big believer that beauty is soul deep. So while someone is wearing their beauty here, I'm working on making sure that I'm beautiful here, first. So yes, I think it's awesome to be like aesthetically pleasing. Like it's nice to find someone nice to look at, right? But have you ever had a conversation with somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, right? So
Self-absorbed.
yes. So the idea is, yes, we can spend time wanting to look beautiful, wanting to, appear beautiful. But I also want to spend time really being beautiful.
Mm, wow. And see that's another aha, being beautiful, being beautiful, and I guess you're touching home in so many ways because that is something that I am a full believer in when I speak to people, and I know energy. I feel energy. I've always
Mm,
had when I was younger. It's funny, but my mom, she always said I was really good at bringing the right people around me, like being around the
mm,
right people. And I think that's where my protection lied. My protection lied in my ability to be able to surround myself with people that shared my same energy. You know what I'm saying? And didn't, either didn't harm themselves or didn't harm anybody else or whatever that looked like,
mm,
whether it's because we can do a lot of damage mentally to people. So, but it was so funny, but I just I don't know, man. I fully believe that beauty shows without you even having to speak it. And maybe that's how my wife got me now I think about it. You know what I'm saying? Now I think about it. Like, because there wasn't much talking when we first met. You know what I'm saying? There was
mm,
energy there. And I think that's where that soul attachment, you know what I'm saying? When you attach to somebody's soul, you kind of hold them
mm,
forever. And I do that with really close friends. Like I know and they know it too, because that there's nothing that they could do that's going to separate us. You know what I'm saying? And that's beautiful to me. Like that's beauty to me. Is your ability to
mm,
be able to your energy, your my it goes like this. This energy is intertwines, and then you're kind of like linked at that point. It's kind of like that bonding, whatever they call it. But yes, that's beauty to me. Is that
yes,
that
I love
soul
that.
soul attachment?
Mm.
Yeah. See, man, look, we got questions on here I'm not even gonna get to, but we can say that for another day. But I think pretty much what this all boils down to is being able to love yourself. And this is Valentine's Day. And we do a lot of we show a lot of love to others, and that's
Mm.
perfectly fine. And being able to share that energy, that love, that appreciation, you know what I'm saying, whatever that looks like, the adoration. But I think let's do a little bit more. Let's bring it inward, because when we start to heal
Mm.
inward, that's just a natural process. We don't have to try to love anybody. You know what I'm saying? It's just like
Yes.
we automatically give that off. But I think a lot of people, they're in a space right now, and I know some people, because we lose people all the time. But being able to love yourself is a great asset to being able to heal overall, when you
Mm.
when we really want to talk about it. So I mean, but yeah, you don't look, we all need somebody, but the one person we need most is ourselves, right?
Yes. You know, and those days where I feel disconnected, we all have those days where we feel disconnected to ourselves because we're trying to be something to everybody. We're trying to be something to somebody at work. We're trying to be something to somebody at home. We're trying to be, especially as we get older and our parents are getting older, we're trying to be something for them. So
Mm-hmm.
to reconnect with myself, I have to remind myself, like, I'm the only person I got to spend the rest of my life with.
Mm-hmm.
The only person I got to spend the rest of my life with is me.
Hmm.
So I have to find a way to do that. And then I have to, sometimes when I'm like, I'm being stubborn and I don't want to connect to that idea, I have to basically remember that my perception of myself affects how everyone else sees me.
Mm.
So that energy, and I'm very big on energy, that energy that we give off based upon our perception of ourselves, that's how others are going to perceive us. And then when you go a step further, how you love yourself is how you teach other people to love you.
Mm.
People will pick up on your example of how to love and treat you based upon how you love and treat you. So when we talk about self-love, it's not just like this fad. It's not just something that sounds good. It's necessary. It's necessary for so many reasons. Firstly, if I don't know how to adequately love and care for myself, how can I love and care for someone else? I don't want to be with anyone who doesn't know how to love and care for themselves, because then
Mm.
you don't know how to handle me. So
Wow.
that's our foundation. At the end of the day, when we think that our foundation is hard work, I'm hardworking, I'm driven, I'm goal oriented. That's my foundation. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. But how do you feel about you? Because at the
Mm.
end of the day, when you don't accomplish those goals, what do you come home to? Do you come home to
Woo.
yourself and say, we didn't go get it, but that's okay. I still love you.
Woo.
Mm.
Woo. It's that what is it? The proverbial mirror that you turn around.
Mm.
That they say once you turn that mirror around and you see yourself. Do you love
Yes.
it?
Yes,
What you see?
exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
just the point that I wanted to make, self love isn't even something, I'm going to be real. It's not even something that I chose, like, oh, I'm going to love me today. It's something that happened out of absolute necessity.
Mm.
When you find yourself in a space where something just hurts you to your core and you don't have anything to grasp onto. I am so hurt right now. And everything that I thought just fell from underneath me. I don't even know what to stand on right now. It was necessity. It was pretty much like, I don't have nothing to stand on right now. I'm lost. I'm just kind of like just hanging here. So the idea is, what do I stand on now? Who's going to, like, I need to be loved. And I feel like maybe the people around me, I'm so hurt and I'm in so much pain that the people around me don't know how to do that. So you have to. You have to.
Huh.
I know it sounds corny, but yes,
No,
that's the idea.
listen, y'all. She spitting game. Spitting game, y'all. Listen, and I think that's the basis of a lot. Was what I'm seeing this as is the basis to our success period. I mean, really, when we look at it, like everything has to have a base, and that base is self-love, and everything gets built
Mhm.
upon that. That's a fact. Like you just said, it is the foundation. It being loving yourself, because then after that, your strong base is already built. You know, one thing you can always come back to and always rely on, and that's here.
Mhm.
This is your house. This is you. You can rely on that yourself there. Give yourself the confirmation. Give yourself that, you know what I'm saying, that I guess, yeah, that confirmation that you are worth it. You are worthy. You are here. You are heard. And I just said that and it made me emotional, like saying that I am heard. It's funny because I
Yes.
always I always get really emotional when I say that because I feel like I don't have a voice. I felt like that my whole life. Like I didn't have much of
Mm.
a voice. And that was just because, I allowed a lot of people to take up space where they just weren't shouldn't have been. They weren't they shouldn't have access to me in that way. But yeah, I have to tell myself that constantly, like I am heard. I am heard. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying, people hear you. You're here, and you're worth it. And I think that's what's missing, especially now in this specific day of love, because we don't feel loved, we don't feel heard, we don't feel appreciated, we don't feel valued, and
Mm.
it's like it does
Seeing.
a lot of damage. And it's although it's just one day, it's almost like it's echoed throughout the year because we kind of revisit that at certain points of the year or whatever
Yeah.
that looks like. We can always kind of feel like we're shutting it off, but all we're doing is really compartmentalizing, and we're not really identifying and addressing what we need. And like you said, we need to do a little bit more of that. Like, what do I need right now? What does that look
Mhm.
like? But it doesn't matter what it is. And I'm gonna go back to that the video I said I put out on my podcast. It was just a snippet, but I'm gonna go back because y'all probably didn't look at it. What I said was, and she kind of was perfect. It works really well when she said, "What do you need in those moments?" It's therapy. Therapy is what you need. Whether it's you to go out and work out, do you need that? That is
Mm.
therapy. Massages, you need therapy. Food, what type of food do I need to start feeding myself to start
Yes.
healing? That's food therapy. Mental therapy, go talk to someone. You know what I'm saying? Spiritual wise, you don't have to. Like I say it again, you don't have to believe in a God. That's perfectly fine. I'm not gonna judge you. Meditate. That will
Mhm.
elevate you. Self-love. These are all components of being able to self-love. And that's giving yourself the care that it needs. Self-care.
Yes.
You care, whatever care you need. What do you need? Gives you self-love. So, whoa, we kind of tied it all in, girl. You see how we did
I
that?
love it. We did
Without even following the dang on flow of the thing, y'all just went all kind of willy-nilly sometimes. It
and
was
be
so
like that sometimes.
I swear. So I'm gonna point out a couple of things that I would like everybody to kind of go to consider on your road to self love, and get a life coach. Is
Mm.
one of my things. It definitely helped me. It was definitely a missing piece for me.
Mm.
Therapists are needed, very much. I know in our community we it's taboo.
Yes. Yes. Very. Because we go
Ther-
to church. That's our
Right.
therapy. Yes.
No, therapists. They work. Trust me. Utilize those outlets. Start a hobby, whatever that looks like for you. Whatever you're good at. You good at dancing? Hey, you know what you do? Like my wife, what
Mm.
she does is she actually turns off all the lights. She goes into the living room and she goes. She said that in those moments she's a superstar. Whatever that
I
looks like
love
for her.
it.
I never caught her.
Yes.
I've been trying to catch her, like turn on the light. She quit. She quit. What? But yes, whatever outlet it is, do it and be okay with it, no matter how silly it makes you feel or
Yes.
look, whatever. Just do it because it feels good. That's self-love and that's self-care. You're doing it because you legit enjoy it. So
Mm.
massages, they're very important. Trust me, it takes a lot of tension out because as we get older we hold our tension and it's mostly up here.
Mm.
So release all that. Ever say, my neck is hurting, or
Yes. A stress.
a lot
That's
of
tension.
stress. That's tension. Massages.
Mhm.
And you said the number one that helped me through this all. I sit by yourself and allow yourself just to breathe and tune to yourself. The best thing you can ever do is go somewhere and be alone and just acknowledge the fact that you're breathing. And say to
Mm.
yourself, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Take those
Yes.
moments and trust me when I tell you, it helps your body. It helps you to connect with your body. It sounds weird because it's like for some reason, this is just coming right now. We're disconnected with ourselves, with our bodies. We're disconnected
Mhm.
because when we look at it, we go through our day and it's almost automatic. Our bodies are so
Yes.
conditioned to do a certain thing that we programmed it to. You know what I'm saying? Based off of it, it could have been just. I was reading this book. I'm all over the place, just so you know. So,
Mhm.
reading this book and it just talks about certain things, the way the brain works, as far as the way it's programmed, even before we even born. Like, well, when we start to get born, we develop a brain. It's things that we were already taught way before because our parents, all those type of things that were handed down to us, right? So we
Mhm.
do a lot of programming throughout our lives, and those things become automated. There's a lot of automation that goes on. So that autonomy is not really a good thing when we really look at it because we're not truly connecting or acknowledging our bodies through that process. It just becomes a learned habit. We're conditioning.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we're disconnected with ourselves. But meditation and sitting with ourselves and acknowledging ourselves, we're bridging that gap. You know what I'm saying? We're closing that gap and we're starting that connection. We're tethering ourselves. And I feel like that to me was huge for me. I know it was brutal to do at first because I learned so much
Mhm.
about myself in those moments. It was
Yeah.
scary, but it was necessary.
Yes. You know what I like to tell my clients because I think sometimes we become we've become a generation of people where we only understand things in terms of a task. We've
Mhm.
become very task oriented. So if it's not about being productive, if it doesn't have anything to do with um, making sure that those things are checked off on our to-do list, we're like, what's the point? So
Mm.
what I like to tell my clients, I'm like, when you're sitting at your computer and it's moving slow and it's not moving right, what do you have to do to get it to move right? You got to close out some tabs. You got to close out some of those tabs. So when we sit and we practice breath work and we reconnect with ourselves, we're essentially resetting our nervous system. Our nervous system is being programmed to go, 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 and be stressed and to be anxious and to be all these things because we're constantly in autopilot, like you said. So the idea is, how do I close some of these tabs and reset my nervous system? I need to sit and connect with myself through breath work. I need to connect with myself through feeling where the stress is in my body because we do hold so much stress in our body, especially I'm so big on this with trauma survivors. We hold trauma in our bodies. And the idea is, in order for me to function the way I need to, not to get tasks done and to check things off my list, but to function the way I need to close out some tabs and reset my nervous system so that I'm not walking around here like we're all hopped up on coffee and Red Bull, and we're like, go, 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 go. So our nervous system is all over the place. So how do we like bring it down and reconnect? So I love what you said about like sitting like, yeah, I had to do that. It was tough, but I had to do it.
Wow. Man, I love this conversation. So what I'm probably gonna end up doing is just cutting this into two parts, part one and two, because this is excellent. So I want to know what is next for you, Porsha. What is next
Oh
for
my
Porsha
goodness.
the LMSW?
Oh my goodness. Well, firstly, I'm trying as hard as it is sometimes because we're always looking ahead to the next thing, right? We're like, okay, I got to do this,
Right.
I got to do that. So while I am doing that, I'm also trying to remind myself to be present. I'm trying to enjoy the journey. I'm trying to learn, as much as I can along the journey. But what's next for me? So currently I am an LMSW. So the next credential that I'll be working on is my LCSW, because my dream is to actually have my own practice. I
Oh.
I want to be able to provide a space that focuses on not just mental health, but mental and spiritual health. I'm very big on Reiki. I'm very big on meditation. I'm very big on understanding that trauma and stress stays trapped in our bodies. And while I can focus on my mental health, there can still be something weighing me down spiritually. So I definitely want to provide a space. In the more immediate future, I am working on, drum roll, please. I'm working on putting out a podcast, right? So I'm working on putting out a podcast. I'm trying to find time within this crazy schedule to basically get my content together. And the idea of the podcast, the name of it is Wake Up Love. That's what I'm working on. That's my baby right now that I'm currently trying to birth and give life to. So the idea is Monday mornings suck. They are hard. Like, honestly, Sunday evening, I'm not even going to lie. I'm like, damn, tomorrow's Monday. And sometimes we need something Monday morning that makes us feel energized and inspired. So that's the idea. On Monday, let's talk first of all, working as a therapist. I sit in sessions sometimes and I'm like, damn, I wish I could say this. And I can't. I can't. I want to say some shit, y'all, and I can't. So the idea is, it's also being able to have conversations as a real person. It's nice to have the opinion or the voice of a therapist. It's nice to hear, but I also want to feel like I'm talking to a real person. So the idea is we're going to discuss topics that might come up in therapy, but I'm gonna say the shit I want to say. So so that's the idea is kind of getting us going Monday morning, making Monday easier, but also talking about some topics in a way that feels real and feels like authentic. So want to hear, here
Wow.
go.
Well, I know that's gonna be good because I'm pretty sure during you probably experienced a lot of like conversations with people like, yeah, I just need to say this, man. You know what I'm saying? I just and then Monday come out, you can go ahead and let it out because you're not gonna be there in front of that person. You can be like, look, y'all, let me tell y'all something. I'll be real with you
Yeah.
real quick. And I think that's where people will connect the most. I think the most successful podcasts that I've listened to are people that are having authentic, real conversations. You know what I'm saying? Respectful ones, because there's some ones out there that's just a little wild for me. I'm like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not my audience. I'm not their audience. So, but yeah, but I mean, I'm all about the real world experiences, and that's what we do. That's what we do. And you know,
Mm.
like I tell everybody every single time, this is therapy for me. So that's so much I've learned from you through this conversation and being able to look back
Likewise.
on that. You know what I'm saying? Because I always watch my podcast again just to see, because I tune in a little more when I'm the actual audience. When I feel like, you know what I'm saying, because
Mm.
I'm in this moment, but when I listen to it again, I get to hear every single word you say and kind of really digest all of that information. So, and I encourage you all to do the same, man. I mean, we're not talking just to be talking. This stuff is real, and we're all going through something. So this
Yeah.
is our opportunity. I'm not gonna say your opportunity, but this is our opportunity to reflect and to give ourselves a little bit more than we give, because we're
Mm.
very hard on ourselves, and we don't have to be. And even though in those minds, even if we are, we know that there's a place or somehow that we can come out of it, and this is a way. You know what I'm saying? This is a resource. Social workers, I had no idea. Again, like legit. So I mean, if you have
Mm.
access to a resource such as herself, please do so. She's in New York. I'm in Florida, y'all. But I'm gonna tell you, seek her. Wake Up Love. That's gonna be the podcast. You can be sure that I'm going to share this information. Once she has everything set up, I am going to share it. So be on the lookout for that. I'm super excited. She gonna be on my list of podcasts. My list of podcasts is very short. I only have two on there, myself and my sisters. So I will be adding this one because I know this is gonna be necessary. This is gonna be great content. But I know for you, you've I taken up so much of your time. Guys, I'm going to give you one more resource. Bow Ties and Button Ups Elite listeners. This is a private group on Facebook that I have for my podcast. I recommend you all to go on here because I do share a lot of content on this private group than I do on my regular Facebook page. And that's just because I want to try to get some engagement with my audience. We just talking about some real stuff. I ask like questions, being silly, all that other stuff. So yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fair.
Well, thank you guys so much. Yeah, we back. It's go good. So listen, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I know you'll be watching this tomorrow. which is the 15th of February. So, you could drop the comment in there. I will respond to all comments. And if, you tag Porsha, she'll hopefully, I'm requesting, please respond to them too. They may have
Yes,
questions. So,
absolutely. Yes, please.
or if y'all want to say, hey, yeah, girl, whatever you want to say, whatever y'all want to do to, celebrate her because she's dropping these gems, yo, do that. Fellas, I know this is a space for us as far as this is for mental healing for men, but there's a reason why I have female podcast co-hosts on, and that's because we see ourselves a certain way, but we also need to know how they see us as well outside of ourselves. And this is a great way to kind of bridge that. So that way, it's not just a one-dimensional thing, and we feel like we have to be a certain way. Because again, I'm breaking these any type of whatever idea it is to be a man in this society. I'm breaking all of the rules with this, and this is what BTBU is all about. I'm breaking rules, man. So bringing these females in again, like ladies. I hate saying females for some reason, but bringing ladies in and showing their perspective, we kind of get to look at ourselves in a different way, in a different lens, and not just just singular when it comes to men, because we don't share the same ideologies or same whatever. What I'm saying? So this is where we're gonna do it. Thank you so much for coming, Porsha. I
Thank
appreciate
you
you so
for
much. Thank
having
you so
me.
much.
Thanks so much.
Seriously. Yes. So everybody, please give her a round of applause. I need to see y'all clapping up in here. When she was doing her thing, you know what I'm saying? You let her know she was doing her thing because she was. You know what I'm saying? This is how we do it.
Thank you.
So YouTube, y'all gonna be able to see this live for the podcast. I should have it up for tomorrow. I know I'm talking about this and y'all ain't hearing it until later, but podcast listeners, y'all know where to search: Apple, Spotify, whatever y'all can go to find this to listen to. Give it a listen. Yo, I'm out. Thank you so much, Porsha. Thank you so much again.
Thank
Stick
you.
around after I finish my outro, and we're gonna holler. All right.
Awesome. Thanks
Later,
so
y'all.
much.